Hello, my friends. This is Deepak. I know I haven't done a Facebook Live for a long time, but I thought before the holidays I would share some reflections with you. And so today I am going to talk about my own journey, which has taken almost 73 years to get from provisional to absolute identity. So, can we explore this? And if you have any comments, send them along and I will respond to them as well. So, I was born in India on October 22, 1946, and I'm referred to frequently as one of Midnight's children because 1947 was when India gained independence from British colonialism. And so all of us who were born at that time in India are called Midnight's children. And of course, in the West, we are referred to as baby boomers. So I'm a baby boomer. Okay, so as soon as born, I was given a name, Deepak, a family name, Deepak Chopra, and an identity, Indian, born of Hindu and Sikh parents, a nationality, a religion, and became part of a culture. And of course, I assume that's who I am. I'm Deepak Chopra, a young boy is when I started to think about these things. But I know before that I was a fertilized egg and a zygote and an embryo and a baby and a toddler and a boy and a teenager and then an adult and now this. So which one of those am I? As I look back and reflect on my life story, I realized that I've never had a body in the real sense because the body itself is a verb. It's a changing perceptual activity. And the word body, in a way, is confusing because it implies that your body is a noun. But actually, your body is a verb. It's an activity, and it's constantly recycling itself and also growing from the fertilized egg to this. And as an activity, it's a perceptual experience in awareness. So, perceptual experience in awareness is interpreted as the changing body. And this perceptual experience in awareness is an activity in consciousness or awareness. And it is a modified activity of consciousness as sensations and perceptions. We know the body as an experience in awareness, and that too a changing experience in awareness. So if we say, I have a body, it's a bit confusing because there's no such thing. It's constantly changing perceptual activity. The body and the name that goes with it are nominal and provisional entities, which means they are in name and they are provisional, constantly changing identities as the body. But that's true of the mind as well. The mind is a changing mental activity of thoughts, emotions, and feelings and imagination and curiosity and intention and attention and insight and intuition and creativity and vision, and it too is a changing activity, and it too is consciousness modifying itself as that changing activity of sensations and thoughts and feelings and emotions. Good, bad, indifferent, likes, dislikes, fear, joy, love, so many things. But it's a changing activity, and the only constant in that changing activity is the awareness or consciousness that we call I or I am, which is both generating that mental activity, both experiencing that mental activity, knowing that mental activity, and ultimately realizing that the mental activity itself is a modified form of awareness. Awareness knows itself as a changing mental activity. But since the mind changes every second, every minute, by the hour, definitely by the day, then it too is a provisional identity, mental identity. Whether it's mind, intellect, or ego, is the activity of consciousness. And yes, as Aurora Carlson just said, the only constant is the true self. But the true self is not the mind, intellect, or ego, which are constantly evolving, changing, and recycling. They are the true self in which that is being experienced. And that true self is ultimately a field of possibilities. It's non-local, it's not in space-time. It is acausal, without cause. It's fundamental, it's irreducible, and it is only modifying itself as the mind and the body. So then even the mind is a provisional and nominal entity. It goes with the name, the form, and the mind, the intellect, the ego. They all go together as a unified experience, which is consciousness modifying itself. Okay, so that's what the great wisdom tradition of Vedanta calls the subtle body. The subtle body is the conditioned mind, is the intellect, which is the source of reasoning and discernment, and it's the ego, which is our self-image. This subtle body is constantly projecting itself as what we call the physical body, the changing activity of the physical body made up of perceptions and knowing, right? So now we know that the subtle body is projecting as the physical body, and through the five senses also as the world. The five senses, seeing, hearing, sensing, tasting, smelling, these are activities of consciousness modifying itself that create the experience that we call the physical body, but also the physical world, and they go together. Physical body, physical world, mind, intellect, ego are all actually projections of a deeper reality. Now, if you go the traditional map of Vedanta, then beyond the subtle body is something called the causal body. And the causal body is, of course, made up of jiva, which is composed of consciousness embedded with past impressions called sanskaras that lead to karma and lead to memory, and sanskaras, which are past impressions, and their interpretation and the karma and the memory that go along with it is recycling as the mental or subtle body, which is then recycling as the physical body, as the experience of the physical world, and they're all changing activities in jiva. Jiva is the personal soul embedded with the software for experience. That's what we can call karma, memory, and desire, is the software for experience. That's jiva. Now, if you take away the software, you're now getting a little deeper into what the Vedic tradition calls Atman. Atman is the unmodified self, not yet modified into jiva or soul. And Atman is the same as Brahman, which means the self of the individual and the self of the universe are one. The self of the individual and the self of the universe are one. Ultimate ground of creation. All possibilities, infinite correlation, infinite creativity, infinite imagination, infinite visions, infinite actualizations of the possibilities, infinite versions of bodies, minds, and experiences that we call the world. So, in fact, that level, Brahman, which is the ultimate ground of all creation, and our unconditioned self is the window to that reality, is who we are ultimately, the ground of the individual and the ground of the universe. This is the only absolute true self. Everything after that is a modification of the absolute true self into relative identities. Even the jiva is a relative identity because it's constantly not only recycling as experience, but and the experience includes body, mind, universe, but it's also evolving. It's not static. It's like a spiral staircase. The soul's journey through cosmic time is like a spiral staircase, ultimately leading to the absolute, infinite, acausal, non-local Brahman. But even our individual jiva, the soul, which is conditioned by karma, memory, desire, even our individual jiva is in a sense relative because it evolves through cosmic time, maybe many incarnations. Now, since we brought up the word incarnation, I would say that in a way it's a misnomer. We say the embodied self, but the self is never embodied. The self is never embodied. The self's activity is the mind and the body and the universe. So you, as the true self, are never embodied because you, as the true self, are borderless, infinite, unbounded, irreducible, infinite awareness. And that is not in space-time. And so it never moves away from where it is. It only modifies itself and experiences itself in a particular life cycle, which is a qualia program, as mind, body, intellect, emotions, sensory perceptions, and so on. It's the programmer. The software is the jiva, and then everything after that is the output, including mind, intellect, ego, body, and universe. That's the printout, you might say. In other words, the body, mind, and universe are symbols of reality. Symbols. And even the symbols change. They're not constant. They evolve. And so what's left, what is non-symbolic, is the true self, pure being, without cause, not in time. When we understand this, we also realize that modern cosmologies are getting close to this idea. Modern cosmology right now is suggesting that the fundamental ground of existence is a vacuum of entanglement, where energy, information, matter are all entangled, and they appear as life, or the cycle of life. And this cycle of life is evolving to higher levels of abstraction, creativity, vision, and correlation, and creativity, and freedom. Freedom to create. Freedom to become. Being becomes. Aurora Carlson just sent the comment, nothing and everything. Yes, that could be the basis, by the way, of a new formula for understanding reality. The new formula would be 0 is equal to infinity is equal to 1. 0 is equal to infinity is equal to 1. I like that. So you are the one that is both the immeasurable potential of all that was, all that is, all that will be. And in that level of being, you have infinite freedom to morph yourself into any experience. I like the word morph. So forms, when they change from one form to another, that is a kind of morphing. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly. A toad becomes a frog. We even use the word metamorphosis. And so meta means beyond, morphosis beyond form. So forms are constantly evolving into other forms. But if you want infinite freedom in your experiences of morphing into different forms and phenomena, then you need to understand that every form is actually a phenomenon. It's the arising and subsiding constantly of modifications of awareness, appearances on the screen of consciousness. So every form is a phenomenon, and every phenomenon is the modification of the formless into that phenomenon, which then appears as that form. Okay, so ultimate creativity comes from the experience of the formless self. Many times before I go to sleep at night, one of my meditations includes Yoga Nidra, which is the gradual detachment from sensory modalities of experience. So close your eyes and all forms disappear. But there are still thoughts and feelings and images, which are in fact forms, subtle forms. But as we detach from that, slowly in the practice of Yoga Nidra, we end up experiencing our formless self. And that formless self is infinitely free to morph into all modes of knowing, all knowers, and all forms that are known. So the formless is the ultimate freedom. We experience that in deep sleep, but we can also experience it in death, because in death there is no form. So death is ultimate creativity. Death is the absence of all experience, incubation, and then new experience, not new embodiment, because you're never in the body is in you. You're never in the mind is in you. You're never in the world is in you. This is a translation of an aphorism in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita says, Prakratim swam vashtabai vishrajami puna puna. Curving back within myself, my true self, my formless being, curving back within myself, I create again and again. Aurora Carlson is saying death is 0. Yes, it's 0, but it's also infinite, because 0 and infinite are the same thing. So when we pronounce death as physicians, we look at a flat line. The heart wave becomes a flat line. The brain waves become a flat line. That flat line is infinite possibilities, incubating till the next resurrection or the next recreation, which is a quantum leap in context, meaning, purpose, archetypes, and stories. We are recycled stories. So today you could ask yourself, what's my story? And then say that's a provisional story. For that story, there are infinite other stories to be told and also to be experienced. Infinite stories. That's the freedom we have, to create infinite versions of ourselves. So modern cosmology, with its infinite universes and multiverses, is going in that direction. I do believe that there are infinite universes, but they are not locations in space-time. They are frequency domains of consciousness that are symbolically represented in different frequency domains of space-time. In other words, different modalities of space-time, all appearing as infinite knowers, infinite modes of knowing, infinite forms and phenomena known in the flat line of being. 0 equal 1 equal to infinity. So tonight, try and experience your formless self. And even in the midst of activity, you can once in a while stop and go back to your true self as formless being, which exists both in the experience and in between every experience, between every breath, every perception, every thought, every experience. I look at my body, I look at the screen on the computer, I look at the Milky Way galaxy, and the distance between all these is just a perceptual snapshot. That's it. Occurring faster than the speed of light. Big distances, huge distances are mental constructs. In reality, space-time is the interface of the cosmic computer. And you, as a conscious agent, have to interact with the cosmic computer. You, as a conscious agent or soul, have to interact with the cosmic computer in order to have any experience, perceptual, mental, emotional, whatever experience you can think of. You have to interact with the belly of the computer. So my friend Don Hoffman has user interface theory, which is a good metaphor. Think of yourself as, think of your body-mind, not yourself. Think of your body-mind as a symbolic representation in the desktop three-dimensional computer interface that we call the interface. You know, you are a symbol on the screen of the computer, except the screen of the computer is infinite. It's infinite. And it has infinite symbols, and you are one of the symbols. And that symbolic signature is the software of your soul. But in order to create experience, you have to press the symbol, which then goes into the belly of the computer, the cosmic nanotechnology workshop, which then prints out the experience. You know, if you want to go to Chopra.com, you press the symbol, and then you go to the belly of the computer, which gives you a visual experience of Chopra Center, products, courses, etc. Similarly, this is a symbol. You press this through interaction, through relationship, through questioning, through self-reflection, through self-inquiry, through mindful awareness of body and mind and mental space and the web of relationship and the relationship to the cosmos. Those are the ways you press the symbol, and then it interacts with the cosmic borderless belly of the computer, the nanotechnology workshop for infinite universes. And learning how to do this consciously is to become meta-human. Thank you for joining me. I acknowledge all of you. Judy Anderson from Sweden, Gyprion who's asking, are we a wave or a particle or both in the same time? You're all waves and all particles entangled in infinite possibilities. Catherine, hi. All of you. So wonderful to see all of you. Avril, hi. Gus, hi. Samantha, hi. Hi, Houston, Texas. Bianca, hi. And Catherine Wright. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Anne. Erica, Fuji, Vivid, Viad, Claudia, Sheila, Samba, Sorensen, Liliana, Valerie, Dash, Javier Torres from Chile, Gretna Provence, Raza Khan, Dawn Armstrong, Sylvia, Monsoon. Okay, thank you, and we'll talk soon. Happy Holy Days.